Good evening and welcome to the August 24th, 2017 School Committee meeting. We're happy to have you all here. This evening's meeting is being recorded by Easthampton Media. Easthampton Media channels 191, 192, and 193 is looking for volunteers. If anyone is interested in helping to tape city government meetings, please contact Kathy Lynch at 413-203-1360. Superintendent Fallsby, do you have some announcements for us?
Yes, I do have a few announcements. The next regular school committee meetings are Tuesday, September 12th and Tuesday, September 26th. The first day of school for students is Tuesday, September 5th. Only students in grades 10, 11, and 12 have a delayed opening. Kindergarten screening is September 5th and 6th. Kindergarten visiting day is September 7th. And kindergarten students' first day is September 8th. For community members or others who do not have children in our schools and want to receive the superintendent update, which comes out weekly during the school year, please visit our website at www.epsd.us and click on Click to Subscribe under Latest Superintendent Update.
I would also like to announce that tonight we're going to have two public speak sessions. There's only one that appears on the agenda, but I'd like to explain that we're going to have two this evening. The first public speak session will take place prior to the presentation regarding school culture and climate, the investigation and action plans. And that will be an opportunity for anyone to speak about a topic other than that, anyone who would like to address the committee on any other topic. The second public speak opportunity will be immediately following the presentation on school climate and culture. And at that time, anyone is invited to address the committee on those matters. So I just wanted to explain that. We're going to allow put in an additional public speak time. At this time, I'd like to ask, do we have any correspondence?
No.
No correspondence. Okay, and gifts?
No.
We are usually inundated with gifts, for which we are very grateful. It's an unusual evening that we don't have any gifts, but we typically have just an extraordinarily generous community. Okay, before we move on, what I'd like to do is turn our focus to Carrie Patterson, who is an upcoming senior at Easthampton High School, and she's our student representative. And while there's not too much happening with students at the high school during the summer, we usually turn to our student representative for an update on what's the activities happening at the school, and we'll just check in with Carrie and see if she has anything to share with us.
I actually do have some things. The senior class of 2018 has a car wash scheduled for September 2nd, which is a Saturday, and that's at 10 to 2 a.m. or 10 to 2 p.m. at Cernak Buick in Easthampton. And there's also a new student barbecue happening next Wednesday on August 30th, and that's at the high school from 5 to 6:30.
Great. Perfect. And that new student barbecues for all incoming freshmen or new to the school?
Yes.
People, students and their families.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we'd like to thank Cernak Buick for their donations for the car wash. That's really helpful. Very helpful. Nice visible location. So please, all of you, pursue dirty cars before September 2nd.
It's no problem.
Okay. That brings us to, public speak. So at this time, I'd like to just review guidelines for public speak with you. We would like to extend this opportunity for anyone who would like to speak on any other matter than the school culture and climate investigation to do so at this time. I'd like to remind you that you should limit your comments to a maximum of 2 minutes. And as a reminder, we do not share any information that would violate privacy laws, and you must refrain from any remark that violates a student's right to privacy or an employee's right to due process. If you'd like to come forward, you can do so at this time. State your name and where you're from. Okay, we'll move on then. We'll move on to our report on school culture and climate, results of the investigation, finding and action plans. And before I turn this floor over to Superintendent Fallsby, I'd like to make a few remarks. I want to let everyone here know that we have been working with the Attorney General's office and the committee has reached a collaborative agreement which we believe will be beneficial to all. The agreement should be fully executed by early next week. In addition, I wanted to share with you regarding the list of issues that we received from parents at previous school committee meetings. Parents have submitted questions and concerns about a variety of matters, alleged incidents, some reported, some not, disciplinary procedures, overheard comments, and more. And the superintendent references them in greater detail in her report, having personally followed up on each and every one. These lists were also provided to the Attorney General's office, and they were investigated as part of their review. However, tonight we will not be reporting publicly on any specific cases involving students or staff. These matters are governed by privacy laws, and we must respect those involved. As always, anyone who personally is involved in a matter or the parent of anyone who is involved can follow up with administrators at the school or with the superintendent to discuss specifics of a case. Clearly, the past 5 months have been challenging for our community, particularly for students, parents, and staff at Easthampton High School, who have been at the center of difficult conversations and intense scrutiny. The reports and analysis we will hear tonight are presented not to point fingers, place blame, or second guess. Above all, they're not presented to divide us any further. Instead, the superintendent will report on broader themes that emerged from investigations in order to help us understand them more fully. But tonight is not only about re-examining the past. In fact, I'm hopeful that with this presentation, we will mark a significant turning point for our district when we shift from looking back to looking ahead, looking forward. We are eager to receive an update from the superintendent about the important work underway and the work that lies ahead to improve the school culture and climate across the district. With that said, I'll turn the floor over to Superintendent Follansbee at this time for her to make her presentation.
What about Attorney Dupre? See if this is Thank you, Chair Deb. Appreciate it. Now if we can get the PowerPoint up. So we do. We might want to turn off some of the lights down there and maybe some up here. Maybe not that many.
They're on different levels. It's like the one light that's right over the PowerPoint. There we go.
Now we're good. Okay. Good evening, everyone. The events that took place last spring at our high school prompted all of us to take a much closer look at the culture and climate of the school, and in fact to look at the district as a whole with respect to issues of identity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Students, staff, parents, and community members raised concerns about attitudes and behavior related to race, color, ethnicity, national origin, immigration status, religion, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, and disability. Oops. It's me. As a school district and as a community, we take these matters very seriously, and therefore our goal is to ensure that all our schools are safe, welcoming, inclusive learning environments for every student and adult. And to achieve this goal, we must identify and eradicate bias based on race, ethnicity, language, national origin, immigration status, religion, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, and disability. 3 sources of information have supported our work: my investigation, the Collaborative for Educational Services, CES, and the Attorney General's review. As part of our initial work this spring to improve climate and culture, we engaged outside providers. Dr. Sapphire DeYoung and her team from the Collaborative for Educational Services were hired to conduct a multi-stakeholder evaluation to gather concerns, experiences, and suggestions to inform the creation of a multi-year plan. The plan would be aimed at helping our district become a more equitable and inclusive environment for all students, staff, and community members. The information gathered from parent, student, staff, and administration forums and numerous surveys would be used to help us develop a plan for change and empowerment. At the same time, I began an investigation into incidents of alleged bias at our high school during the 2016-2017 school year, and the Attorney General's office contacted us to begin a civil rights investigation concerning our high school after receiving complaints from parents, community members, and civil rights advocates. We have been in contact with the attorneys from the Attorney General's office throughout the summer and have worked collaboratively with them in the release of our reports. Although we had all hoped a conclusion of the Attorney General's work would happen before this evening, we are still in the final stages of continuing to work with them on a memorandum of agreement. We saw all of the work that was being done relative to the investigations, along with the findings and recommendations, as an important learning opportunity and essential to developing our action plan. All of the data from the three sources went into the report I am sharing with you this evening, and a 10-point action plan that will be discussed later in this presentation. Dr. DeYoung and her team conducted 14 forums for students, staff, parents, and administrators, and administered 287 surveys. Some of the findings from the work done by the collaborative were 28% of students surveyed report hearing racist jokes or comments at least once a day, but 0% of teachers or staff reported hearing those things with the same frequency. 33% of students feel that no one intervenes, while just 5% of teachers or staff feel the same way. Many students of color and students who are LGBTQ, multilingual, ELL, Muslim, and/or female currently experience the culture at EHS as unsafe or unwelcoming, while a small group of white students also reported feeling bullied for expressing their political viewpoints. It is important to note that I investigated every list of concerns submitted to the school committee by parents. These lists contain various types of entries, including not only alleged incidents, but also concerns, questions, and opinion statements. Because the specifics of each case are subject to laws governing the privacy of students and staff, we cannot report publicly on the particulars of any individual claim. However, any adult or parent of a student involved in any incident, whether an alleged perpetrator or victim of bias, may request specifics about the findings related to that incident, and/or request a meeting with administrators to discuss the outcomes. A large quantity of documents, including the parent lists of concern, were included in the documentation provided to the Massachusetts Attorney General's office, and attorneys indicated they had looked into every matter submitted to them. A staff survey was administered to all 55 members of the high school staff. 46 individuals, 84% of the staff, responded to the survey. Individual responses were extensive, wrong page, for students, staff, and, well, each individual responses were anonymous and they were done by an independent investigator. My apologies, I have lost one of my pages. Let me go look for it. Oh, here we are, right here. My investigation had 4 components. First, a review of documentation, incident reports and discipline records, correspondence, emails, texts, social media posts, and parent concerns. Second, interviews and meetings, students, parents, teachers, administrators, and other staff. Third, observations of related events. And fourth, staff surveys. It is important to note that I investigated every list of concerns submitted to the school committee. My apologies, I think we're all messed up here. Excuse me just a minute.
Could it be in your office? Probably while we're waiting for the time, we'll have the electronic version will be available.
While we're waiting for Superintendent Follansby, I'll just let you know that all of this information that you're hearing tonight is going to be made available on the website, I believe as of this evening. So you'll be able to reference it there.
Go on from here. It is important to share with you the broader findings of my investigation as indicators of the culture and climate at the school. Many of these findings and trends are consistent with those identified by CES and the Attorney General's office. In my report, I have included sample responses from the staff survey and interviews to illustrate the point. The first finding was that current discipline policies and procedures, particularly those related to peer-on-peer bullying and harassment, need to be reviewed and updated. The second finding, members of the school community do not have consistent knowledge and understanding of policies and procedures related to student conduct, resulting in unevenness in implementation. The third finding, perspectives on the culture and climate at EHS, particularly related to safety and diversity, vary greatly among stakeholders. Number 4, competing and sometimes contradictory sources of information, including social media, news coverage, and parent advocacy, often create confusion and escalate tensions. Number 5, some stakeholders attribute a noticeable increase in bias-related incidents to the current political and cultural climate at the national level. 6, each incident was treated primarily as an isolated matter, without addressing the underlying culture and climate issues. And 7, there is a widespread sense of eagerness and urgency to come together as a school district and community to learn from these experiences and work collectively to address the issues that have surfaced. I have been so pleased at the number of parents and community members who have gotten in touch with me to express their desire to join us in moving forward in supporting our plans for improving the climate and culture of our high school and our district as a whole. The district and school community acted swiftly this spring to begin addressing the issues at hand Most importantly, through ongoing dialogue with students, parents, and staff, facilitated by Dr. DeYoung and her team from the Collaborative for Educational Services. Since then, we have worked closely with a number of partners, including the Office of Mayor Cadger, the Collaborative for Educational Services, the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office, and the Anti-Defamation League to develop an action plan that will guide our work over the next 3 years. Our starting point is a 10-point action plan designed to address the findings I have outlined, as well as the many findings and recommendations presented by our partners. The 10-point plan for year 1 is as follows. 1. Engage staff in anti-bias training. Extensive professional development will provide staff with tools and resources to address issues of bias, prejudice, and discrimination, and promote an inclusive environment in which diversity is respected and valued. Phil Fogelman and his team from the Anti-Defamation League will provide there a Classroom of Difference training to our middle and high school staff, teachers, paraeducators, administrative assistants, custodians, and administrators, myself included, at one of our August professional development days. Phil is here this evening and will be happy to answer questions you may have about the training and the work ADL is doing with our district. And Phil, if you might just let everybody know where you are. And we're really pleased to have him here this evening. Thank you. Ongoing trainings will be provided to all staff, including elementary staff throughout the school year, embedded in year-long professional development. Number 2, engage students in anti-bias training. I'm currently working with Muhammad Ali Salam of the Community Relations Service of the Department of Justice to plan to have our high school students participate in the Department of Justice Spirit Program on preventing and resolving conflicts arising from incidents of bias related to racism, color, national origin, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, or disability. Muhammad was supposed to be here tonight. He hoped to be here tonight, was not able to be here, but we will look forward to perhaps having him at one of our future school committee meetings. Number 3, engage parents in anti-bias training. We are in the process of working with our partners in planning trainings for our families and community members where they will learn about strategies to foster safe and supportive learning environments for all students, including reporting bullying and harassment and policies and procedures for reporting and investigating incidents. Number 4, review and update policies and procedures. Again, with the help of ADL, we have already begun a review and update of all policies, procedures, and protocols related to conduct and discipline at the high school to ensure understanding and consistent implementation among all staff, students, and families. Once this review and update is completed, we will move to align all policies, procedures, and protocols across the district. Number 5, develop a bias incident response protocol. The district will again work with the ADL to develop and adopt a response protocol for all schools and the district to use when responding to a report of a bias-motivated incident. Number 6, convene a stakeholder advisory committee. Dr. DeYoung from the Collaborative will assist us in forming and facilitating an advisory committee of administrators, teachers, students, and parents to meet at least monthly at the high school to monitor, provide feedback, communicate about, and help design ongoing school climate and culture work. Dr. DeYoung will facilitate an application process for membership in this committee. Please check our website for information on how to apply to join this committee if you are interested. Number 7, offer regular advisory periods for high school students. All EHS students will participate in a structured advisory period throughout the year to discuss school culture and climate issues with staff and with their peers. Number 8, build capacity in the LEAP model. Our Director of Curriculum, Julianne Levin, has been trained as a trainer in the state's LEAP program, Leading Educational Access Project, and will provide in-district training for staff. The LEAP model is based on a commitment to promote educational access and equity, which means that all students, inclusive of English learners, students of color, and students with disabilities, have access to high-quality educational opportunities. All educators are culturally proficient and honor as well as leverage diversity in their education practices. All families and caregivers are valuable partners and help to create a rich educational experience for students. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, districts, and community partners work collaboratively to eliminate explicit and implicit bias, to dismantle racism, and to promote social justice within districts and schools. And we're very excited about getting this program started in our high school this year and across the district in the future. Number 9, conduct an annual audit of discipline records. An external consultant will be hired to conduct an annual audit of all disciplinary records, particularly to identify any evidence of bias in reporting and implementation of relevant policies and procedures. And number 10, administer an annual stakeholder survey about culture and climate. Students, parents, and staff will complete an annual district-wide survey to report on perceptions and experiences related to school climate and culture, particularly about bias-related incidents and responses. The first survey will be administered in January of 2018. It is important to note this is a district-wide plan for all our schools, pre-K through high school. Although much of the initial work has focused on the high school to address the immediate issues, this work is critical for all members of our school community, and we will identify ways to deepen the work in the elementary and middle grades moving forward. As noted, these action steps are our priorities for year 1. We have intentionally not prescribed priorities for years 2 and 3 as we plan to work closely with the Stakeholder Advisory Committee and with all of our stakeholders and our partners to assess our progress and determine additional strategies to meet identified needs. Of all the documents I am presenting to you today, the 10-point plan is the most crucial. It helps us with a preliminary roadmap to shift from a reactive position to a proactive position. And I believe it establishes a solid foundation on which to build in pursuit of our overarching goals. We are excited to undertake an important set of work to eradicate bias and ensure all of our schools are safe and welcoming learning environments for every student and adult, regardless of race, class, religion, nationality, immigration status, gender, disability, or sexual orientation. And we look forward to forming partnerships to achieve our common goals of improving school culture and climate through the Easthampton Public Schools. At the end of this evening, we will launch a dedicated page on our website where you will be able to find our 10-point action plan, my report, the CES report, and any future reports, as well as an abundant number of educational resources for educators, parents, and students. Discussions about identity and diversity, and ultimately about racism, sexism, Islamophobia, homophobia, anti-Semitism, and other forms of oppression are challenging, but critically important. We hope these resources will be useful in classrooms, homes, and the community to deepen our understanding of difference and to facilitate dialogue about eradicating bias and bigotry. Finally, I want to thank the school committee and Mayor Cadger for your leadership during this difficult time and for your commitment to working with me and so many others to chart a course forward. I also want to thank the countless students, parents, teachers, staff, and administrators, and community partners who are participating in this process. Certainly, there will be challenging times along the way, but there can be no mistake that this work is profoundly critical in ensuring that we fulfill our mission of preparing graduates of the Easthampton Public Schools who are not only scholars, but thoughtful, respectful citizens of the world. I look forward to working with our many partners to continue our mission of making the Easthampton Public Schools a great place to learn and grow. And now I welcome questions or comments school committee members may have.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you,
Comments?
Nancy.
Questions? Mayor Patrick?
Yes. So in addition to thanking the students, the parents, the administrators, our superintendent, and our wonderful school committee that have put in countless hours over these months, I would be amiss if I didn't, and I think everyone knows that we have cooperated in every way, shape, or form with the Attorney General's office. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention some people that I think were, it was an extreme pleasure meeting them, and very impressed and extremely thankful for their assistance. So when we met with the, when we went to the Attorney General's office, we met with the Chief of the U.S. Attorney's Office, which is Kevin O'Regan, the Department of Justice. And we also met with the wonderful staffer there too, Karen Legacy, who is here in our audience. And I think of you as the director of Project Safe Childhood. So I just can't tell you what a wonderful experience it was for us, and the assistance that you immediately provided when we asked. Also, Deepika is the assistant U.S. attorney. She was going to be here today, but you know, the fact that any of you are here is just, to me, so amazingly impressive. Mohammed Ali Salam was wonderful, and we do have Dr. Phil Fogelman here. He's from the Anti-Defamation League, and I can't tell you how impressed I was with his service, and I would be honored if you wouldn't mind saying a few words.
Thank you very much. I'll just come up and...
Thank you.
See
Please.
Thank you, Mayor, Superintendent, members of the school committee for inviting me here tonight. And I just want to commend the superintendent for the presentation and applaud the district for its efforts to facilitate positive social change. I've been at the Anti-Defamation League for 19 years. For those of you who don't know, the Anti-Defamation League is a civil rights organization that was founded to secure justice and fair treatment for everyone and stop the defamation of the Jewish people, because we know that when any one individual or group is targeted because of an aspect of their identity, we're all vulnerable, we're all susceptible. So we do our work with schools and districts across the country. I oversee the New England region, which includes every state in New England except Connecticut, which has its own regional office. And in the 19 years that I've been at the Anti-Defamation League, I can tell you from my experience that bias is not unique to any one school, any one district, or any one community in the region. And I think the measure of a healthy community isn't so much whether bias exists, because it does. It's really on how a district and a community respond to that bias. And so I really have a lot of admiration for the efforts that the district is making. And with that in mind, next week the Anti-Defamation League will be delivering full-day professional development, as you heard, to all middle and high school faculty and staff. And just as an FYI, the full-day training is designed to examine explicit and implicit bias, its manifestations and impact in the school community, identify, develop strategies to counteract that explicit and implicit bias, increase awareness of personal responses to racial, cultural, and other human differences, and the impact of those responses on interactions with members of the school community, and finally, to identify instructional practices that foster a safe environment for discussions on race and other aspects of human diversity. And so I think a lot of those goals are very much aligned with what you identified, Superintendent, in your report, and in particular making sure that the folks who are attending the training essentially see this as a learning opportunity and are able to identify commonalities in terms of what their experiences are in the school and gain a perspective on how to move forward using what they've learned. So thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have about the work that the Anti-Defamation League does, and in particular how we'll be supporting the district. Questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Marissa, any comments, questions? I thought you were going to say something.
Thinking, but yeah, I guess I would echo the thanks to all the effort that Superintendent Follansbee put into these reports, and I think it takes real courage and strength to lay bare flaws and to face them and to say we know this is a problem and we're going to work on it. And I'm eager to support in all the ways that I can as the district builds these capacities. I guess as a representative who's elected to help advocate for young people of Easthampton, I do feel like I want to offer a personal apology to any students who have experienced this kind of discrimination or harassment, or who have struggled with being in an environment in which it's occurring. I'm sorry, and I'm so grateful that the district is responding so actively to really work on it. I guess I would also commend the students who brought these issues to light. They got this conversation started. They brought it to the attention of school leaders who now are able to really address it meaningfully. And I think I really like the way that this action plan is addressing from a lot of different angles: staff, students, parents, a sort of holistic vision of the school community. It's looking at policy and curriculum. So I think that it does form a really great foundation for moving forward. I think I would also put out a plea to parents, particularly parents like myself who are raising white children, to have those difficult conversations at home. The school is going to really do its best part to make a healthy and safe and inclusive environment, and we have to meet the school halfway by sending our kids to school ready to be positive contributors to that environment. And I think that means not only talking about how to avoid being perpetrators of harassment or discrimination, but also really thinking about how can we be raising children who are allies and who are going to speak up against injustice. And so I would again echo Superintendent Follansbee's mention of the resources that are available toward that end on the district website.
And I think that we have said several times from the very beginning, from the very onset, as soon as this was brought to our attention, our intention was to automatically seek assistance. That is the first thing we did. So we feel that, we feel that obviously bias is everywhere, racism is everywhere, but we feel that this is us being proactive and taking a stance and hopefully being an example to other communities of what to put in place, putting these procedures and practices in place. And I have to commend our superintendent through going through all this. I think most of you that are part of this understand the many hours, days, nights, weekends that have gone into this. I mean, this has been going on since March, and the time that she put into it. And it's not about you always can tell the character of people or the character of a community when it's easy to, be on the top of things when everything's going great. But when difficulties arise, it's how you handle those challenges. And I commend her on that. And I also commend the school committee and our community on constantly just working together on this. And again, my thanks to Phil and your services. And I do know how highly sought after those services are, and I do know how you bumped us right to the front. So again, my extreme appreciation for your services.
So I want to echo the thanks for the very thorough investigation that you did, Nancy. I know how many hours, how many interviews. The members of the school committee did a lot of interviews and meeting with parents and teachers and staff. And Nancy, I know the mayor's worked on this, but Nancy had the job of bringing all of it together. And it was a hard report to write because it's always hard to point out your mistakes, the things that you need to improve on. But the things that we found out that we need to improve on a really systemic of any school system. We just happen to be kind of the poster child for how to fix these problems. I mean, it boiled down to we have to improve our communication. We have to clear up our policies, make them crystal clear, understandable to the public, to students, to the teachers, because teachers are kind of the first line of defense, but they've got to really have a good working understanding of those policies before they can implement them. So what I like about this plan is it really empowers the staff, the students, the parents, the administrators to learn some strategies. What does it look like when a policy is being violated? What does bias look like? That information is going to, on a daily basis, help us to heal this school. So I am really excited about everything that is in these reports. As hard as it is to say, it's not anything different than what's going on someplace else in the country, but we're going to do something about it. And I'm really excited. I will help. I will be a cheerleader for it. I will continue to listen, but I think that we're going to see that the policies and the procedures that we have in place are really going to do a nice job of bringing everybody back together and get down to the business of education and growth.
And I did forget one person. This is going to take 1 second. I did forget. I would feel terrible if I left here tonight without also mentioning the chief, Chief Robert Alberti. There is very few days, you could probably count them on one hand, where I did not meet with Nancy, the chief, and myself. He was very much a part of every end of this, whether it was meetings, phone calls, and it didn't matter where anybody was. If anyone was trying to enjoy some time off, which no one ever seems to get, but I would be remiss without thanking him. I just thought of it at the last minute, so thank you. I'm sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
And I was going to say, obviously, I agree with everything that my colleagues have been saying here tonight. I would really urge friends in the community to check out Sapphire DeYoung's report from the collaborative as well. It will also be available on our website. It goes into basically the findings are more or less the same, but there were some additional details in her report that I found to be very interesting. And I think going along with what Marissa said about what we as white parents need to be doing to kind of support our community in dealing with these issues, one of the questions that the students were asked is what happens when racist comments and jokes are made at the school. And out of all the students who were surveyed, 33% of them said no one intervenes. But 16% said I intervene, like I, the student, intervene. And that says to me that one thing that we've been remiss in doing in all these years is that we have not been teaching our students how to intervene themselves when they hear these comments. And instead we're teaching them to expect to rely on somebody else to intervene. So while I do, I definitely feel like we need a structural response to these issues, and I think one of the great things about Nancy's report that she just talked about was that the structural response was kind of missing in our initial response. All of these incidents were kind of treated as individual incidents rather than as a bigger picture of what's going on in the schools. Part of addressing that structural response is teaching students that they have the agency to intervene when they see and hear things happening, and that they can kind of be active, participants in their own communities. So I'm feeling really good about the way that we're going. I think this was a really unfortunate kind of series of incidences that happened over the springtime, but it's put us in a position where we can really be a model district in regards to dealing with some of these issues, which are not unique to Easthampton by any means. And what I'm hoping is that we can teach our students to feel empowered to deal with these incidences themselves, so that then when they grow up and they become adults in this community, they continue to feel empowered to solve problems amongst themselves and to be strong community leaders as well. So I think it's a great investment in our schools today and in the future, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. And thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing, Superintendent. I really appreciate it.
It's clearly a team effort with you as school committee members. I couldn't do it without your support.
So thank you for all of your hard work, Superintendent Follensby, and I do appreciate this plan. It's very comprehensive, and the way that you laid it out, I think is a really great direction that we're going in. And Sarah, I'm just, as you said, teaching the students to, stand up to harassment or bullying or racism or bigotry. I do want to just say to the students who really stood up and walked out and took a stand, because if you're looking at the percentage of white students in our high school, 81.1%. So the students took a stand for their peers, their friends, for the people who needed to have that voice. And so I just really acknowledge the students at EHS who had the courage to speak out and actually take ownership in their school community and their climate. And I think it's important, we talk about being the change you wish to see in the world. This was an incredible example of that. So these events are unfortunate, and I look to the opportunity here for what the students have learned throughout this process, in that they learned to, they found the passion for something, they stood for something that they felt wasn't right, they organized themselves, and they had the courage to walk out of school. And so I think with that became a catalyst for change in our schools. And what I appreciate in this report is that there is responsibility here from you, Superintendent Follansbee, from the district, of where we didn't get it right, or we didn't have the capacity to handle certain things. And immediately your response was asking for outside support. And so I really appreciate that. And that wasn't from within the district. You went to the Collaborative Education and you went to the Anti-Defamation League. Because, for me, these things are beyond my scope of understanding. And I do think that we are on the forefront of change, because I don't think that it's not happening in other schools and other districts. And, all around it takes courage. And I think that, I'm really excited to be living in this community, and I have younger children. I have a son going into kindergarten, that it truly is a community. And the school has responsibility to provide this this environment as well, but we as people have a responsibility to each other. And when we disagree, we can find a way to come together. And I truly think that I'm excited for what is to come from this. And yes, it's uncomfortable. There have been, and as Marissa said, yeah, I'm sorry that any of the students or the parents that your children felt unsafe. As a mom, I very much understand that. And so I'm confident that we can work together with this plan moving forward, and we will be a stronger community and school community from this. So thank you.
Karen, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah. As both a student and a young person, I know that I'll carry these events with me for the rest of my life. And like you guys, I'm new to the school committee, but I was part of what happened last spring. And it's just so great to see what a team effort it has been. And you guys have set a great example for the community and the students to follow that example in the future. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, you set a great example.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. I'd just like to personally thank you as well, Superintendent Follansbee, for all your hard work. It's been a long, long process, and we're very, very grateful to have you leading this effort and appreciate all that you've done. And we really are confident that you will lead us through all of this and forward, and we'll be better, stronger than ever before. And hopefully we'll be a model for many other high schools and many other school districts out there. And we'll raise the bar for everybody and be a great example out there.
And I just want to say to you that, you've been by my side through so very much of this, and again, the support has been so important, and the sharing of ideas and thoughts and perspectives. I couldn't have done this by myself, and I didn't do it by myself. I had many, many people working with me to do what we've done, and it will continue to be a team effort. That's the only way we're going to move forward in a positive way, if we can all continue to work together on this plan and on being that model school I think we all want to be, that model district. So thank you.
Yeah, I did want to thank you too, Deb, for all of your endless hours of work on this too. And
No, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, so at this time, we would open up our public speak session and invite anyone who's with us this evening who'd like to comment or ask questions or talk to us about anything that's just been discussed. I'd just like to remind you that the committee does not typically respond or discuss matters that are brought to our attention during public speak time. However, we do carefully review and consider all of the information that's presented to us. And I would also like to remind you that we'd like people to limit their comments to 2 minutes and to please not share any information that would violate any privacy laws. And if you would state your name and where you're from, that would be great.
Hi, my name is Michelle Gagan. I'm from Easthampton. I should say that I actually also work at the Collaborative, although I had nothing to do with Dr. DeYoung's report. I never actually intended to speak, and I'm really interested to hear more about what format the training will take place, the anti-bias training will take place for the students. I guess I am up here because I want to request that when you think about the format that the training will take specifically for the students, that you think about those with learning disabilities, and that hopefully you will be involving special education teachers, and I understand that you now also have an autism spectrum specialist who sort of rotates through the district, and that you can involve her as well. Some of these students struggle with social pragmatics and just socializing with other kids, and so I would hope that you would consider their training to be perhaps a little, just take a different format than maybe a blanket training for the general population. I think it'll be more effective that way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Linda Broadhurst, 12 Lawler Drive. I'm pleased to see that people are talking and trying to work out the issues that have been brought forth. It has been very difficult, and the only thing I'm going to add is that listening to all your responses, 2 members of the committee made note that white parents need to teach their white children. And that just, to me, would be starting issues again. This is everybody's issue. Everybody needs to learn to get along. Everybody needs to respect one another. It's not white people causing all the problems. It goes both ways. And I want everyone to get along, and I just don't want it. I was like, in everything that was being said, I'm like, this is good, this is good, this is good. And then those 2 comments was like, are you kidding me? That's how I feel. I don't think it's just, even on the thing it said, small percentage of white students felt like they were being bullied. Small, large, it doesn't matter. Being bullied is being bullied for whatever reason. It just has to stop, but it's not just white people doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy Wazinski. I'm at 22 Overlook Drive, and I wanted to thank that mom that just spoke, because I was sitting here very frustrated with those same comments. This is not about making the kids who didn't walk out feel bad and making families and kids who are white feel like they don't belong and that they're not important. The kids that didn't walk out because they didn't think that racism was a okay thing. They chose not to walk out because some of the kids were thinking it was okay for that young man to get beat up. This needs not to be a brainwashing of our kids into agreeing with the extreme liberal presentation of life. Thank you.
I'm Beth Cole. I'm at 19 Park Street. I think the kids are getting mixed messages. They're hearing stand up, intervene, and then they're hearing, you know, the mayor, the superintendent, the principal condemn the walkout in the paper. You know, they're reading that in the paper, you know. So I think that that what I really heard from the kids was they really want to be heard. And I think that all the parents, no matter where you stand on any issue, I think everyone agrees with that. The kids want to be heard, and I worry that there's this plan is heavy on training and lecturing and all that, and I didn't really hear anything about, well, there's the audit, the advisory period. I guess that means the kids can meet and talk once a month, but I really didn't think that there was enough emphasis there. And I also thought that there was, you know, the elephant in the room here was, you know, the way that this was handled by the school administration wasn't addressed at all. You know, the widespread disappointment with the way the principal handled it, the way he was perceived as part of the problem, and you know, that wasn't addressed at all. That's all. Thank you.
Wes Hardy, I live on Hendrick Street. In the presentation you had a section about eradicating bias, which sounds like a great thing, but then you also had a section talking about implicit bias, and just for those of us who don't know, implicit bias is a positive or negative mental attitude towards a person, thing, or group that a person holds at a subconscious level. So if I have an implicit bias that by definition I can't know what it is, this plan is going to eradicate me from having a bias that I myself by definition can't know that I hold that bias. I mean, it seems like an unattainable goal, and I don't know, I feel like if you set that as the bar, it's going to be very difficult to grasp that bar. And my fear from this is that if we make an effort to microscopically focus on bias, difference, racism, and things like that, I hope that the plan works. My fear is that we're going to sow the seeds of division and then water and grow them, and it won't get better, it might get worse. And I'm not saying that is what's going to happen. I'm saying that that's my fear, is that things like implicit bias, where you can look at someone and say that their actions are implicitly biased, and that person's action definitionally, they can't know that the action that they're undertaking is biased because it's implicit. So if you start studying and teaching people about implicit bias and how there's problems everywhere and this is bias and that is bias, and people become hyper-focused on bias, I think that they're going to start seeing it more places. Like, you know, how many things do you see that are red? Okay, you don't know, but then someone says, all right, once someone said that, you say, okay, now look around the room and see things that are red, and you start seeing red everywhere. Or it could be the make of a car, right? Someone gets a new car, and you see that it's a, I don't know, Ford Taurus or whatever, and then everywhere you drive, all of a sudden it seems like you're seeing Ford Tauruses everywhere, because you were never aware of it before, but now if you're aware of it, you're more aware of it, and I don't know, I guess my point and my question really is, what action could someone take to eliminate their implicit bias? I mean, it seems like it's an unsolvable problem. I mean, there's no way to get rid of an implicit bias. It can't be done. But I hope this works, and I hope everybody comes together more, and I hope there's, you know, no problems whatsoever. That's my fear. So I don't know. I hope you guys can have that work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Noreen Nardi. I live on Willow Circle here in Easthampton. And I just want to say to Marissa and Casey, I appreciate your comments. Although you did refer to, you know, white parents or white kids, I do think that our community is predominantly white, so I think that's where that's coming from. But it really does start at home, and regardless of your ethnicity or your beliefs, I think our parents really do have a responsibility to work with the school and to teach their children how to treat other people, how to respect other people, and how to help other people if they see somebody is being wronged. And I do appreciate Beth Cole's comments, you know, with the administration. I know it was a hard year for them as well, and I hope that they can and will be included in those trainings, and maybe even, you know, a mentor for Mr. Burke. And I hope that you're open to that and willing to make the changes so that Easthampton can be the school that we all know and love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Peg Conniff. I live at 35 Pine Hill. I'm also a city councilor. So I wanted to thank you all for the hard work that you've put into this. I certainly know the hours that you've put into it, and it made me glad to be a city councilor and not on the school committee. A couple of things that I just wanted to mention, and especially in light of some of the comments we've heard so far. You had mentioned that there's going to be training coming up in August. It sounds like it's starting. And then there's going to be a survey in January to kind of see how things are going. My question, my comment, my thought was, as you go through this, and in light of, you know, people are a little apprehensive about the direction and things like that, will there be like touch points along the way between now and January to kind of get a view of, are we heading in the right direction? Do people feel that this is helpful? Like all of the stakeholders at some point. You know, I'd hate for us to wait till January and find that nothing has worked, and where we maybe tweak it along the way with the help of some of the other folks that we've been working with. And then my other comment is, will we tonight be getting a presentation from the AG and CES, or are their results on the website? And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Their results will be on the website.
We will also have paper copies of my report and the CES report available after the meeting, or after this portion of the meeting.
Anyone else? Okay, well, we'd like to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. We appreciate all of your comments, and we'll consider everything that's been said and shared with us. At this time, I'll close public speak, and we'll move on to our reports, subcommittee reports.
Finance Committee is not met.
Okay, policy review.
We have not met since our last public meeting. We'll be scheduling a meeting soon.
Okay. And we do not have a collaborative update. Okay.
There's not a collaborative meeting yet.
All right.
I'm sorry, we haven't met since our last meeting. No update.
Same thing with CES.
No update.
No update. And we do not have an education policy update for this evening. Okay, so we will be moving on to the superintendent update.
There is no superintendent update.
EHS handbook changes.
Oh, sorry, new agenda. Thought I was finished. We do have, for your review, a small change to the Easthampton High School handbook. Principal Burke was going to present that to you tonight and explain why Assistant Principal Wilson is going to present that to you tonight and explain why that change is being made and why we wanted to have it approved before the start of school.
Good evening, everyone. I'd also like to thank you all for the hard work, and we really appreciate all the effort that has been done, and we are very excited about rolling up our sleeves and getting to work at such important work. So thank you for all your efforts. We look forward to this year with great anticipation. As for the updates, the formatting of our faculty and staff directory, when it was printed, it got a little funky, but everything in red are the new staff changes, and anyone that has the strike through them, those folks are not here for different reasons, but the new people are there also. Okay. And then the other two updates are on if you go to the third page, I guess it is, under dress and grooming, we included clothing and accessories promoting and or depicting criminal acts, illegal activity, violence, and or actions that could cause a substantial disruption to the school environment is prohibited. This was language that we received from the ADL and thought that this should be included. So I put that in there for, we put that in there for your viewing. And then also at the last page under grounds for short-term external suspension, just kind of really, we highlighted in yellow the part that was in there previously in last year's handbook. In red, it says name calling, verbal abuse, and or put downs, including those which are ethnically based, racially based, or gender based. So that also is included in a little language kind of cleanup there. So that's also for your review. I'd also like to say that in September, so at the start of the year, we'll also be convening a handbook review committee that will have various stakeholders getting right to that and coming back to you after making sure all voices are at the table and having time to think about things, reflect, digest, make suggestions about that with a lot of review from other sources too, and with the help with our partners, and then come back and present possible changes and suggestions in the future to you. What we're hoping for is in October. Okay. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
That's okay.
So,
go ahead.
So, I did not have the opportunity to see this until the meeting started, so I'm thinking out loud in real time here, but if we have to vote to approve this change, is that my understanding, right? We vote to approve this change in the handbook, correct? I'm concerned about the language in where it says clothing and accessories promoting or depicting depicting criminal acts, illegal activity, violence. Okay, and then, or other actions that could cause a substantial disruption to the school environment is prohibited. We've had this difficult conversation earlier this spring, and I know we voted to eliminate one article of clothing on the grounds that it could cause a substantial disruption. I guess my concern is, particularly in this environment that is so heated and so controversial with so many things, if somebody was to advocate an unpopular political viewpoint and disruption arose as a result, I would urge us not to implement this so as to deny that student wearing, I mean, think of all the controversial political issues that are out there right now. If a student wears a shirt advocating something like that, which it seems to me is entirely appropriate and something we want to encourage students to do, to respectfully contribute to the political conversation that's going on. But if that political point of view bothers other people and there's a disruption, we can't tell that student that they can't wear that clothing. So I guess that's my comment as I'm looking at this literally, you know, in real time here. I'm just concerned about, you know, we had you know, a difficulty this spring with an understanding about what disruption means. You can't decide to create a disruption to eliminate someone's ability to speak. That's not what that's in my scope of understanding. And I appreciate what Casey said before, because I'm not a lawyer, and I know our school attorney has left. He could probably speak to this more thoughtfully, but I just urge us to have some discussion about how this will be administered, because I can see this in this environment being problematic, being divisive. If you say something, you know, there's a bill in front of Congress and you come out, you know, fervently in favor of it, and that upsets other people who disagree with that proposal, that's call for more conversation about the merits of the bill. It's not a call to say that that person shouldn't be allowed to advocate for that by what they wear in school.
I believe this was language that was approved by the school department attorney. Was this just from the ADL, or because I know our school department attorney had recommended including this language?
Okay. Well, again, I don't know what the background on it is, because it was here on the desk when I came out at 7 o'clock to read, and have been trying to actively listen to everything that's important that's being said, but think about a matter that we're being asked to vote on. I think that's always problematic when we're trying to multitask here, particularly about something that, you know, this is pretty closely related to the topic that we were just talking about. And these reports, this is, and some of the members of the community who came and spoke at the podium, I think were sharing remarks that bear on this as well. So anyway, that's my thought at this stage.
I guess I have a question, Sue. Is it crucial for the vote on that tonight? I think Peter would probably like to make sure that Russ Dupre has had a chance to, that is, in fact, he has had a chance to view that. Is that what you're thinking, Peter? And more time to digest it? But how crucial is the timing for the handbook? Well,
it's up to the school committee as to whether you want to make a vote or not. You know, we were thinking that we would try to get this in place before school started, but it's certainly a school committee decision as to whether you want to vote tonight or wait and have more time to reflect on it.
Likewise, on the other revision, which extends the language to identify ethnically based, racially based, or gender based, it seems like if we're going to make those additions, it might be logical to just include all of the protected categories as per the policy.
And I would agree that I think, going back to what Cindy said, that clarity here really helps. Part of what we're talking about tonight is, you know, needing to educate so that everyone who's a stakeholder, students, parents, staff, everyone has a sense of what we've agreed to, and then you might still disagree, but at least you understand what's been established. I think part of the concern here is that there could be greater clarity in that piece, and therefore students and faculty in particular, since they're the ones interacting all the time, would be able to understand, okay. And I bet that this will be covered, Superintendent, in the professional development that the ADL is going to do. I'm sure that there will be more detail, and that ultimately, therefore, the students will get access to this, and the faculty will. But I think when it gets, often people go back to the text of whatever was written and say that's where I'm getting my knowledge. So.
May I just maybe a possible could be that those two things are just tabled for put aside. We could take those out, revert back to what we had in our handbook for 2016-2017, bring those back into the discussion with the handbook committee that has everybody at the table, look at it with other eyes, especially after the start of school, and then come back to you again in October, but go back to the language that we had from 2016-2017. That way we could propose that for the vote so that we'd start the school year with a handbook that's voted on. I don't know how that specifically happens.
I mean, if that sounds like procedurally sound, I would be in favor of that. I think it would be good. And then we only have to do like this, we do the revision to the staff, I guess, and then you could start with the handbook, and then we would, we're going to have some changes anyway that are going to be recommended by that committee, which will probably also cover these issues in other ways. So we may as well just do it all at once, and then we'll have some more time to review it. I think that makes sense.
Who's on the committee, Sue?
That will be
the handbook committee.
That will be determined. We wanted to wait until everybody was back in the start of school. Yes, we wanted to wait until everybody had the opportunity to be.
Are students involved in that?
It would absolutely be
That's what I
students.
thought.
Yes, it would be students, teachers, staff, parents.
Given how freighted this particular piece is in the current environment, I think that would serve the educational process to actually highlight the discussion that you're having about those two things separately. So that's another reason for doing it that way.
Excellent.
So typically, just to say, in the past, what we've done is we get teachers together to work on changes. We then take those changes, bring them to student council, and let student council review and look at the changes. Then it's reviewed again by the teachers, which is then brought to you, which that process wasn't able to get through. We were working through some other things. So that is the process that we plan to go through in September and get something by the end of October.
Yeah.
So
That sounds good to me.
you're saying you haven't been able to do that normal process?
That is correct.
Okay.
Because
We had
they're not
some.
back in school yet.
That is correct,
Right.
until we, and we don't have everyone available to do that. We had we had discussions over the summer, absolutely, but we want to make sure that everybody has the same opportunity to have the ability to have discussion, and then it goes through the process that we would normally go through with all of our stakeholders and going to school council, or to student council, absolutely.
I'm fine with waiting.
And so that would happen in early September, and then it would come to us in early October.
Come to us in October would
That's what
kind of be the typical
that's the
timeline?
timeline that we're looking at, absolutely.
Okay, sounds like we're all in agreement that we'll
We're fine with that.
toss it back to you to go through the normal process and have the
Do we
committee
need
review
to
it.
approve the changes to the faculty and staff, or is that okay?
No.
We do that all at once. Do that all at once.
Okay.
Meaning
Thank you.
tonight?
No, when the next time.
the next
Everything
next
can be
version of the
approved then.
handbook.
Have we misunderstood that? Is that okay, or do you want us to vote on the?
Want to address that?
Sorry.
Want to come back up?
I think it would be helpful if you could approve the handbook that we need to have an approval of our handbook, and we will come back with changes in October, because we have to have, there's a
And there are no other
sign-off.
changes other than those faculty
Tho-
staff
that
changes?
was all the-
Right, okay.
Those three changes are the
Then I would
changes.
move that we approve the student handbook for 2017-2018 with the additional changes under the faculty and staff that have been outlined here, and that other changes will be addressed at a meeting perhaps as early as October.
Second.
Okay, so move that you approve the changes of the handbook for the 2017-2018 with,
For the faculty and staff, those changes,
okay,
but that we're holding on the changes to the dress code and to the, I'm just looking for the the section under dress and grooming and grounds for short-term external suspension, that both of those we'll wait to hear back from you about that faculty-student dialogue about how they think that should be.
and there's a second.
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion. It's been seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, warrants and payroll. Thank you very much, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you. I move to approve the school payroll dated 17 August 2017 in the amount of $347,180.69.
Second.
There's a motion. It's been seconded to approve the school payroll dated August 17, 2017 in the amount of $347,180.69. All those in favor? Motion passes.
Move to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated 17 August 2017 in the amount of $133,470.19.
Second.
There's a motion. It's been seconded to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated August 17, 2017 in the amount of $133,470.19. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
I'm trying to see if there's. I think that's it on payroll, and so then we just have minutes, right?
Correct.
So, motion to approve the minutes of the school committee meeting dated 10 August 2017.
Second. There's a motion. It's been seconded to approve the school committee minutes from August 10th, 2017. All those in favor?
I abstain.
I'm abstaining as well.
Wait, we have to abstain if we weren't there, right?
You don't
You
have
were
to.
there.
No, you don't have to.
You don't have to.
It's not necessary.
You were there, Sarah.
You can accept them.
You were at that
What
meeting.
was the one that I
The
missed?
next one.
Oh, I missed the next one. Oh, okay.
Okay, one more time. There's a motion
Sorry.
that's been seconded. All those in favor? Cindy, you're in favor? We have 2 abstentions.
I abstained.
Marissa and Mayor Karen.
Right, and then a motion to approve I'm sorry, I did them in reverse order. I read them in reverse
That's why
order.
I got confused.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
The August 10 work session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to approve. It's been
I
seconded.
just have one question. On that one, it doesn't list who wasn't there, so just assuming that who's listed was there, that would be the one that you weren't there, Sarah?
Yeah, I wasn't at the work
And
session.
normally it's on there. It doesn't matter to me whether it's listed who's excused or not, but just for vote. It doesn't matter for voting either, but I abstain when I'm not there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion. Okay, should we amend, let's amend the motion to include the correction of who's excused?
If you think that might be.
Who made the motion originally? Peter?
I did.
Peter.
Did you amend the motion?
I'll amend the motion to include the absence of Sarah Hunter
And Marissa, I think, too, right?
and Marissa Carreri.
Right.
And you second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, there's a motion to approve the work session minutes from August 10th, 2017 with the inclusion of those committee members who were excused that day. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Motion to.
Motion passes.
Wait,
Do we
sorry.
Have
I'm
abstentions?
abstaining.
I'm abstaining as well.
2
2
abstentions.
abstentions.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to
Motion
adjourn?
to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
I think we can stay here all night.
Meeting is adjourned.
No, right?